Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the fastest way to get a mastery. And you might be wondering, why do I need a mastery? So we'll be talking about that in the video. And honestly, this has to be the easiest way. I know players are going to have arguments towards other fights, like there's other fights that do drop masteries. But to me, this is like the best one, and I'll explain why. So if you do enjoy this type of video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. And appreciate all the people that have been joining the Discord or even just subscribing. I'm trying my best to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I mean, the year is almost closing off and we're very close. We're so close. But let's talk about how to get masteries. So my personal favorite way of getting masteries is defeating the sand squid. You know, players are going to have their own opinion, but if you go do Atlantia, what's it called, in Aquila, whatever you want to call it. But if you do Atlantia, there is a side boss called the Sand Squid. Now, that boss, it is like, you don't have to do any fights prior to get to it. It's kind of like the Gladiator in the Zeus dungeon. So it's very similar, just in this one, we have the Sand Squid. Now, Sand Squid, yes, there is two bosses, I believe two minions around there. And both bosses have 22k. Of course, the way that you just cheese it, Scald Incendiate, I mean... yeah, of course, if you don't have Scald Incendiate, you can just mainly what people do is they just stun chain. You can stun these guys and then you can just, you know, round 2 kill. You don't have to do Scald Incendiate, but sometimes Scald Incendiate might not kill, right? And then you just have another person do a backup hit. It's kind of straightforward. I shouldn't have to like go too in depth into killing these guys. But yeah, it's very straightforward, and you just want to 2-round it. 2-rounding is like the most, but don't go further than 2-round. And yeah, just like do mass feint, you can do mass X, mass curse, you can do blade stack, you can do whatever you want. Just, you know, if you're a normal person that doesn't do Scald Incendiate, round 2. If you do have access to Scald Incendiate and then you have the new Reaver setup and everything like that with on a fire with all damage build instead of pierce, because they don't really have resist, so the damage build is actually beneficial in this sort. Use that and you should be good to go when it comes to Scald Incendiate. Now, after that, after you kill it, you're probably like wondering, okay, you know, what are the drop rates looking like? From my experience, I've been getting masteries like left, right, and center from this boss. I've even gotten points where I've gotten 3 mastery drops in one run, which is very insane to even think about. So it's a very easy farm to get the masteries. Now, there is some other things that this boss drops. So it's not just like, oh, hey, you're only farming for the masteries, that's it. There's some other things that you can get from this fight, and they're kind of like, okay, interesting, depending on how you know, describe it. So I have the wiki pulled up, and we're actually going to be looking at the drops. So I have a couple tabs open and I want to look at. So this is the drop table for the Sand Squid. I know there's some cheats. The cheats don't really matter because, hey, you're going to be 2-rounding this, you're going to be 1-rounding this. You don't have to worry about any of this. So what it does drop is, of course, the Harpy, which really it doesn't matter because you can just, you know, find somebody that has this pet. But the pet's kind of interesting. It does have a Spirit Blast, it does have a Chimera that's an AoE, and a Spirit Trap. So maybe if you're questing a balance, you know, and you don't have like a good AoE, this is a good pet. Of course, the talents on it aren't the greatest. I mean, it does have Giver and Proof. That's about it. I mean, Plipopenti isn't that bad when you're like questing through, and the other stuff doesn't really matter. But it's still an okay pet, and it's good for questing, just because you get an AoE for balance, right? That does, like, you know, Spirit Schools instead of using the 7-pip AoE that you can enchant. But still, it's still good, don't get me wrong. Now, the other stuff it does drop an Ultra Energy Jewel. So if you are trying to get those for your pets or like your energy pets, or even now people are using energy jewels on their pets for the raid, because, you know, you don't really need other things because you reach the stat caps for like health, and you don't really need resist on certain schools because the fact is that either A, you reach the stat cap, or B, you don't need the resist because you get pierced all the way through. Prime example is Storm, because Storm gets pierced all the way through in the raid. So, and if you already reached the stat cap for health, your second best option is just using energy. There's really nothing else you can use other than Pip. I think it's like a Wisp bonus, but that's it. There's really nothing else to have on a pet. So regardless, Ultra Energy is going to be good to just get from here. It's free, might as well. If you're still doing your crafting quests, you do get Sharpened Blade TC from here. I've gotten it quite pretty often from here. Of course, there's other bosses that can like that are specifically targeted for this, but if you're already farming the Sand Squid, of course, and you're trying to get the masteries, I mean, hey, at least you're getting Sharpened Blade TC while farming. You know, it's a plus regardless for your crafting quest. I mean, you only need a few for the crafting quest, and that's it. Same thing with Potent Trap. It does the same thing here. It drops Potent Trap TC too. Of course, there's other bosses that drop Potent Trap TC better, which I can make a video on down the line. But ideally, hey, you're doing this anyways. Like I said, it's a plus. Why not? Right? You're getting a free Potent Trap TC, free Sharpened Blade TC at random. Of course, it's not guaranteed every time, but it's still a place that does drop it. This place also does drop amber. I know people do gardening for amber via, I believe right here, Ultra King Parsley, which I used to do back in the day, or I would do King Parsley, of course. And people use this specifically for, I believe, the spells. If you ever want to craft Angry Snow Pig, Athena, Brimstone, Catalan, Deer Knight, like basically all these, right? Ideally, you would want to craft the spell first. The reason why I say craft the spell first is because the fact is that if you use your spell elements, you're losing spell elements. It's better to craft a spell first so you can save around, I believe, 30 spell elements it is, and then you can use those to upgrade the spell, which is more beneficial to the player. Of course, if you're like, hey, I don't care, I have so many spell elements, it doesn't matter, each to their own. But to me, as like if you're trying to get into like your, you know, starting off with, and you don't want to spend too much money, focus on crafting these spells first, and then eventually farm the designated bosses with gold keys so you can use those to upgrade your spells. So that's why I would say, hey, you're getting amber from here as well. It drops pretty often from here as well. Of course, gardening would be better if you have King Parsley. If you have Ultra King Parsley, that is your best way of like a most efficient way of getting amber. But if you're already farming this boss, like I said, you're getting a plus from here, right? And then the last thing, which is more of like a, I guess, a collector's item, right, type thing, because you're never going to use this deck, but it's honestly one of my favorite decks in Wizard101, and that's like a random thing to say, right? It's such a random thing to say, but it drops this deck of Immortal Might, and it gives a Fiery Giant card, which was kind of interesting back in the day because there wasn't that many decks that gave an item card on a deck. I don't think there was like maybe one or two before, like, you know, Novice and Merciless Gear and all that type of stuff, basically like till we got introduction of item cards on decks. Fairy Giant was one of the first few, so it was kind of nice. I mean, of course it says no PvP, like, I mean, you can, like, it doesn't have the icon. I'm pretty sure it's updated so it's PvP banned. I could be wrong on that. But hey, it's still a cool card to just have. I mean, hey, it doesn't even give a pip, which is a sad thing. If this gave a pip at level 90, this would be such a wild deck because you can have 6 copies of this on spells, and it's a universal deck. So if you wanted to, you don't have to use this on fire. But it's just an interesting find, and it's honestly, it's just funny, and I like this little the deck image for it. It's one of the few like unique ones I really like when it comes to this deck. So that's just an interesting find that I've always had for this fight. But yeah, the main thing you would probably farm this for is the masteries. There's only the only mastery I would see beneficial here is the Exalted Fire mastery. Now, of course, you can still get the life masteries and everything like that, which are still good too. Don't get me wrong. If we look at the Exalted Life Amulet, this does give outgoing. I believe the other masteries do not give outgoing, and this is the only one that does. So this is really good if you want to ever, like, for example, have an outgoing setup. This is still pretty good. I mean, it's one of the few things. Of course, there's some other amulets as well, but the thing is, you would have to switch off using a mastery. Instead, you would have to use school pips, which each to their own. If you like having school pips, go for it. If you don't like having school pips, use a mastery. That's just how it is. But still, it gives 2 outgoing, which is pretty interesting. So mainly you would probably use it for the fire one because A, we all know what you guys are going to use this for. Skeleton Incendiate, and it even gives 3 damage. Of course, if you want a damage and accuracy setup, you would get the Darkmoor amulets, which are more better because you can get those for the raid. I mean, a lot of people are using them for the raid. A lot of people are using them for damage setups if you're trying to like play an opposite school on you know, on your character. So instead of playing life on a life, you would play fire on a life, and people like doing that. Instead of just straight up dual schooling, they're just playing as a different school completely. So it's still good, don't get me wrong, for that setup, but the Darkmoor one is just better if you care about damage and actual stats. But this one is honestly the fastest way of getting a mastery because the amount of mastery that drop from here is crazy, and it's a, you know, there's no pre-fights. You just straight up go there. You don't require a key, none of that. So you just go in there, do the fight, pretty straightforward, which I think a lot of players will enjoy because of the fact it's so easy to do. But yeah, it's a side quest. You can get it, right? I mean, you don't even have to do the side quest to beat the boss or to fight the boss. You can just go in Atlantia if you have the quest, and to go like obviously in Aquila. So make sure you guys do the Zeus dungeon prior, which I expect like 90% of players to do, because you know, if you were one of the people that went and did the Zeus dungeon one time to get the Ares one for 10 damage, you would know like, hey, okay, I've already done Zeus dungeon once. I probably should go, you know, I should have access to Atlantia. So it's pretty straightforward. If you guys are down to do it, let me know. You guys can join the Discord. I'm pretty sure people in the Discord wouldn't mind farming it. And yeah, it's honestly though, I think there's this there, you can get masters from here, you can get masters from Darkmoor, you can even get masters from Waterworks. I know some players say Waterworks is a bit better, but as you can respawn the boss, you can get mega snacks. But it just really comes down to personal preference. I prefer this any time of day. I just hate doing Waterworks because I have to first get to the boss and then I have to respawn the boss, which I mean still exists to this day. So overall, I'd say do Sand Squid. You guys choose your own personal preference. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions down below. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. Hopefully we can get to 3,000 subs before the end of the year. Maybe, I don't know. And make sure you guys join the Discord. If you have any questions or concerns, you guys can let me know. I'm more active in the Discord than I am like in the comment section. So if I am kind of like late at responding to comments, I am sorry. But if you are in the Discord, I try my best to respond to you guys as quickly as I can. But that is it. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.